Hi, it's Dr. Parikh, and we're to Module 4, which is exciting because we're almost to the halfway point. And this is a really big week. This is when you're going to come up with some of your outlines, and you're also going to start doing drafts that are getting peer review. So this is where a lot of the planning and organizing and putting together of the paper happens. The drafting process flows very quickly and naturally from the outline. So make sure you're budgeting plenty of time for the outline, but know that and know to put that this is going to be the hardest you've ever worked on an outline, but then it's going to be the easiest draft you've ever written. Oh, there's my son from his first birthday. Sorry about that. So your readings, you've still got some readings, but they're getting shorter. The video lists are getting much shorter, and it's mostly focused on specific assignments. You're still turning in notes from your Article 4, so that last article that you added in to try to make everything make sense. And one thing that may seem odd is that first I have you do the discussion outline, then I have you do your literature review themes outline. And that may seem backwards because the discussion comes later, but I do that because the discussion is a little more straightforward. You are expected to do things a certain way each time, whereas the literature review themes is where you are really putting something together, coming up with a new way to fit together these old ideas and putting something new out into the universe. So I give you a little more, I want you to use the discussion as a warm-up. Another thing that is very different is that now you're going to start doing full peer reviews. You've done a little bit of peer review, but you're doing full draft peer reviews. The way that this class works, there's just not enough time for us to go back and forth with outlines and drafts, and your outlines here really are a simplified version of your draft, which is easier because it makes it easy for me to pick out the things that are missing or are not quite right. So I give you detailed feedback through the rubrics and usually a couple comments, not a lot, on the outlines. So even if you don't usually include a link for me to go over to your Google Doc, this might be an assignment where you want to do that. Make sure that you give permission for whoever has the link to at least comment, but edit is probably a good permission to give too. Then you're going to come up with the draft. So here, when you're doing your peer review posts, you're not posting the same outline you gave me. You're smoothing it out into a draft. You're adding any transitional phrases, maybe adding one or two more ideas to round things out, and creating a full draft. And that, instead of getting feedback from me, you get feedback from your peers. I don't think I have a link in here. I may put one in the future, but you can go into the Google Drive folder, so that shared, so we've got the paper templates and the peer review forms are just down here under the fours. You can see literature review themes, discussion, full literature review paper. So in here, you'll go in, you'll want to go and make a copy to save it onto your own Google Drive. And when you do that, make sure that you are sharing so that other people can see it. At a minimum, I recommend letting anyone with the link comment, but you could say just people at Caldwell University can comment. Make sure it's more than view though, and it's up to you whether you want to give editing permission or not. That shouldn't matter much. But you want to make sure at least that whoever, when you're giving feedback, that person can see the feedback. You could also download the file and then upload it, attach it to your response to them. That's usually a little clunkier, but it works just fine if that works better for you. If you're not as comfortable with Google Docs, or if you need software that uses Microsoft Word. As you're choosing who to do, make sure that everybody gets feedback. You may find you may submit yours early and want to go ahead and knock out your peer review post and look, and only 2 other people have posted and they both have a bunch of reviews already. You always want to make sure everyone has at least 2 peer reviews before you give anyone a 3rd review, because we want to make sure everybody's getting some feedback. So particularly if it's before the deadline to post, so before Thursday at midnight, I want you to wait and come back after the deadline rather than give a 3rd review to someone. Now, if the deadline's passed, then all's fair. That's why the deadline's there. That's why I don't accept late work, because we are this system where everybody needs to give feedback and get feedback with each other. And so if the timing isn't precise, it makes a real problem. The other thing you can do is, this is an assignment, I will certainly give a few points of extra credit for either giving very detailed and meaningful feedback, or giving extra feedback, especially if those extra feedback, if that extra feedback is to someone who submitted late. So if you submit late, you're not going to get points because that's the way the course is structured. No late work is accepted. But if you still want the feedback, someone else might get some extra credit for giving you that feedback. When you give feedback, you're going to do the peer review form. Also, make sure you add on at least one strength and one suggestion for improvement. And you can comment. When you make your post, I suggest that you, again, use Google Docs and make sure that at a minimum, commenting is on. If you require that the person be at Caldwell University, then you're going to make people figure out how to sign in their Caldwell email, and you may get people saying, hey, I can't access, the permission is wrong, and maybe it's wrong, and maybe they just aren't signed in with their Caldwell email. So I usually make it so that unless it's something where there's a reason for only Caldwell people, I will go in and go into more, usually is what you have to do, and then say anyone with the link. And I like to say can comment. You could do can edit if you want to let people fix some of your mistakes for you. Another thing to notice is that on Sunday you submit your literature review themes outline, and then I usually don't have any other discussions due on Tuesdays, but just the way things fall, I want to give you as much time as possible to work on each thing, but I also want you to get feedback before you need to move on. So I have had, on Tuesday of next week, you're going to turn in your draft from the literature review themes so that people can give peer feedback on that. So again, with the literature review themes outline, I give feedback on the outline, your peers give feedback on the draft. You'll also be doing your research question, and that is very important for everything that happens in the research proposal. So it's something where if I'm not 100% happy with it, I'll give you a 0, give you some feedback, tell you what sorts of things you need to change. Once we have a specific question that we're both happy with, you'll get 20 points. I may occasionally email with feedback, but for the most part, I think for this one, you're in the swing of things, and so I expect you to just check back and look for feedback. The easiest way to do that is to go into your grades. It's not going to let me go in because I'm not a student, but if you go into my grades and you can look, and there should be a little comment bubble that tells you that there's feedback. But either way, if you have a score, you have feedback. A 20 points tells you that you're good to go. A 0, there's going to be feedback telling you what to do differently. That's week 4. You're writing, the main backbone of your paper, and you are getting ready for the next section. It's it seems like the first 3 weeks, it's hard to notice your progress, and then all of a sudden week 4, just things start coming together very quickly. And it seems like I haven't given you much time to do this work, but we're building on work you've been doing all along. And at this point, you should know these articles very well and know the sorts of things you're interested in talking about. And from the concept map, you should have an idea of how you're going to fit these ideas together. If you are feeling lost, come meet with me this week, because the outlines really do, they're a big breaking point of who makes it and who doesn't. So if you think you might need help, come talk to me. Don't put it off past this week, because after week 4, if you are not caught up, it's really tough to make your way back. Points-wise, but even just time-wise, it's hard to catch up and get on board if you have trouble at this module 4. But it's a really exciting, you're starting to see the work you're doing. You're noticing how much you're learning. You're noticing that you're writing in a different way. And week 4 is really when you start to feel like you're getting something real out of this course. So happy writing. Bye.